The sky was a soft gray that morning, heavy with clouds, as Jasmine Cole locked the front door of her modest two-bedroom home. The chill in the air wasn't just from the breeze. It came from her chest, the tight, silent ache of uncertainty. She had just received the call. The restaurant where she worked as a shift supervisor for the last 6 years was letting her go. No warning. No explanation beyond economic cutbacks. One moment she had a steady job and the next, nothing. Jasmine was stunned, holding the phone in disbelief, the manager's voice still ringing in her ears. She wasn't angry, at least, not yet. She was too busy calculating. Rent was due in 4 days. Her daughter, Nia, had a field trip coming up that cost $35. There was gas, groceries, and the light bill. Jasmine didn't come from money. Every cent mattered. Every hour she clocked in was a step toward stability. And now, in a single breathless moment, that stability had vanished. But that wasn't even the beginning of the story. Because just 24 hours earlier, she'd done something extraordinary, something she hadn't told anyone about, not even her best friend. It happened on her way home from work the night before. Jasmine was driving the long stretch of Route 17, a dark, winding road she'd traveled hundreds of times. She was exhausted, working a double shift, on her feet for over 12 hours, and she still had to pick up Nia from her cousin's house. Her eyes were heavy, but she noticed it instantly. A car crashed at the side of the road, its front end crumpled against a tree. At first, she thought it was just an abandoned accident. But as she slowed her car and rolled down the window, she heard it, the faint sound of someone calling for help. Without a second thought, Jasmine pulled over, slammed the door shut, and ran toward the wreck. There was a man trapped inside, barely conscious, blood running down the side of his face. Smoke was curling out from under the hood. She didn't know who he was. She didn't know if the car was about to burst into flames. All she saw was a human being in pain, scared, alone. "I'm going to get you out," she said, her voice steady even though her hands were shaking. It took everything she had. She used a tire iron from her trunk to break the passenger window. Her arms got cut. Her shirt was soaked in blood and sweat. But somehow, she pulled him out just before the car caught fire. She stayed with him, kneeling on the gravel, whispering, "You're okay, stay with me," until the paramedics arrived. The man didn't say much, just his name, Lucas. His eyes fluttered open as they lifted him onto the stretcher. He looked at her like he was trying to memorize her face. Then he was gone, sirens fading into the night. She didn't think about it much after that. She had work the next morning, bills to pay, and a life to keep moving. Saving him felt normal. It was just what you do when someone's in trouble, right? But the next morning, her job was gone. No warning. No thank you. Just a cold voice over the phone, telling her not to bother coming in. Jasmine couldn't help but wonder, was it connected? Had someone seen her on the news near the accident? Had she been late, or broken some policy trying to help that man? Her manager refused to answer. She didn't tell anyone what happened. Not Nia. Not her cousin. Not her church group. It was too confusing. Too much. By noon, she was sitting at the kitchen table with her head in her hands, trying to hold back tears. The power had already been shut off once last month. She couldn't let it happen again. Then, just when the silence in the house became too loud to bear, a strange sound filled the sky. A deep, rhythmic beating, growing louder. Jasmine looked up through the window and froze. A helicopter. And then, another. They weren't police helicopters. They were sleek, black, and massive. They didn't circle. They descended. Right into her backyard. Jasmine leapt to her feet, heart racing. Nia screamed from the hallway, "Mom, what's happening?" "Stay inside," she whispered, pulling her daughter close. Doors opened from both aircrafts. Men in suits stepped out. They didn't look threatening, but they looked serious. One of them was holding a leather-bound briefcase. Another was holding flowers. And then, stepping out from the second helicopter, was Lucas. But he looked nothing like the broken man she had pulled from that wreck. He was wearing a tailored jacket, flanked by security, walking with confidence. Jasmine's mouth went dry. The man she had saved wasn't just someone. He was someone important. Lucas stopped at the edge of her porch and looked up at her, eyes locked. "Miss Cole," he said, his voice strong but kind. "I believe I owe you my life. And much, much more." Jasmine didn't move. Her legs felt like stone. She had just lost her job. She had nothing. And now, 2 helicopters had landed in her backyard and a man she barely knew was looking at her like she'd just changed the course of his entire world. She didn't understand. Not yet. But she was about to. Because what Lucas was about to say would flip her entire life upside down, and not in the way she expected. And it all started with one simple act of kindness on a dark road. Jasmine stood frozen on the front porch, her daughter clinging to her side. The wind from the helicopters had died down, but the noise they'd left behind still echoed in her ears. Everything felt surreal, like a dream her tired mind had made up. But the men in suits, the strange man with the flowers, and especially Lucas, they were all real. And they were all standing in her backyard, waiting for her to say something. Lucas took another step forward, offering a warm but cautious smile. His suit was spotless, his shoes polished, his voice calm. "I hope this isn't too much. I know it's unexpected. But I needed to find you." He looked over his shoulder at the helicopters. This was the fastest way. Jasmine blinked, then finally found her voice. "Why are you here? I don't understand. What's going on?" Lucas glanced at the man with the briefcase, who gave a subtle nod. Then he looked back at Jasmine. "Can we come in for a moment? Just to talk? I promise, we mean you no harm." Everything in her gut told her to slam the door and call the police. But something in Lucas's eyes, something vulnerable, like the man she dragged from that burning car, made her pause. She looked down at Nia. Her daughter's eyes were wide, full of fear and curiosity. Jasmine stepped aside. Only for a minute. Lucas and one of the suited men entered the living room. The others stayed near the helicopters. Jasmine led them in, still unsure what any of this meant. She could feel her heart pounding in her chest. Her house wasn't meant for visitors like this. The carpet was worn, the curtains mismatched, and the faint smell of old coffee still hung in the air. But Lucas didn't seem to care. He sat gently on the edge of the couch like it was made of gold. "First," he said, "thank you. For what you did that night. You saved my life." Jasmine nodded slowly. "I just did what anyone would do." Lucas shook his head. "You didn't hesitate. You didn't ask who I was. You didn't wait for help. You risked everything. And I've never had that happen before. Jasmine folded her arms, suddenly aware of the bandages still on her forearm, the result of the broken glass. Who are you, exactly? He paused. Lucas Rayford. The name didn't mean anything to her at first. But the look on the bodyguard's face suggested it should have. Then she remembered a billboard she'd seen months ago, something about luxury real estate and private tech investments. There had been a man's face on it. Clean-cut. Confident. Expensive. That same face now sat on her couch. "You're that millionaire guy?" she asked. Lucas gave a small, amused smile. "I guess some people call me that. I own a few companies. I invest in others. I travel a lot." "Then what were you doing alone in a wreck on a back road at night?" Lucas looked down. "That part is complicated." Jasmine didn't like the way he said that. Too vague. Too rehearsed. She narrowed her eyes. "Did someone try to hurt you?" Lucas met her gaze. "Maybe." The room went quiet. Even Nia stopped shifting in her seat. Jasmine's mind raced. She had thought the accident was just that, an accident. But if someone had meant to hurt him, if she'd gotten in the middle of something dangerous. "I shouldn't have brought this to your doorstep," Lucas said quickly, reading her expression. "But after what you did, I couldn't just disappear. I owe you more than thanks." The man with the briefcase stood and opened it, revealing a stack of neatly organized documents and a checkbook that looked like it had more zeros than Jasmine had ever seen in her life. "We want to make sure you're taken care of," Lucas said. Jasmine took a slow step back. "I don't want your money." "This isn't charity," Lucas replied, his voice more serious now. "You lost your job after saving me. I don't think that was a coincidence." "What do you mean?" "There are people watching me. People who don't want me alive. That crash. I wasn't just driving too fast. My brakes were cut. Someone tried to kill me. And I think someone didn't like the fact that you helped me survive." Jasmine's stomach twisted. It was too much. Too sudden. "Are you saying I was fired because someone was trying to send a message?" Lucas nodded. "Your name wasn't in the reports. You weren't mentioned in the news. Which means someone behind the scenes found out who you were. And decided to silence you quietly." The air in the room thickened. Jasmine looked at her daughter. At the worn carpet. At the tiny living room that now felt like it was sitting on a powder keg. "What do you want from me?" she whispered. "Nothing," Lucas said quickly. "Except to protect you. And if you'll let me, repay the debt I owe." The man with the briefcase offered Jasmine a document. She didn't take it. She didn't even look at it. Her heart was still pounding too fast. "I have people who can help," Lucas said gently. "Security, lawyers, resources. I don't want to disrupt your life, Jasmine. But someone already has. And if they think you're a threat, they might not stop with just a phone call from your boss." That's when the fear truly set in. Not for herself. For Nia. "You said someone tried to kill you," she said slowly. "Does that mean they're still watching you?" Lucas hesitated. "Yes. And if they saw those helicopters land in my backyard?" "They know where you are now," he finished quietly. Jasmine's breath caught in her throat. "I'll move you tonight," he said. Somewhere safe. Temporary. I can arrange everything. You don't even have to decide anything now. Just say yes, for now. Let me protect you. Please. Jasmine looked around her small home. Her daughter. Her life. None of it felt real anymore. She didn't want to say yes. She didn't want any part of this. But deep down, she knew something had shifted. Something big. Her life wasn't hers anymore. It hadn't been since the night she pulled that man from the fire. Where would we go? She asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Lucas stood. Somewhere they can't find you. Not yet. Jasmine stared at him. Her thoughts raced. Her mind begged for a way out. But there wasn't one. Not anymore. Outside, the helicopters still waited. And somewhere out there, so did whoever had tried to end Lucas's life. But they hadn't planned on Jasmine Cole. And they definitely hadn't planned on her coming back stronger than ever. Jasmine didn't sleep that night. Neither did Nia. Their bags were packed within the hour, loaded into a black SUV that arrived quietly just before sunset. No sirens. No questions from neighbors. Just a quick exit through the back fence, guided by men in suits with soft voices and hard eyes. The helicopters had left earlier, drawing too much attention. Lucas had assured her this would be safer. Jasmine wasn't sure what safe even meant anymore. They were taken to a quiet property on the edge of town, a gated compound surrounded by trees so dense you couldn't see more than 20 feet ahead. The house was beautiful but cold, like a showroom. Every room had security cameras. There were no personal touches. No dishes in the sink. No pictures on the walls. Just silence, high ceilings, and the distant hum of generators in the woods. Lucas checked in briefly, then disappeared into another building on the property. He said he had to handle a situation, and that Jasmine should stay inside. Rest. Trust him. But rest was impossible. Her thoughts kept circling the same question: what had she stepped into? By morning, she had her first answer. A knock came at the door. Not loud, but sharp, official. Jasmine opened it to find a woman standing there, wearing a tailored coat, heels far too nice for the mud, and an expression that didn't blink. She introduced herself as Detective Elise Morgan. "I'd like to ask you some questions about the night of the accident," she said calmly. Jasmine hesitated. "I already gave a statement to the paramedics. They said everything was fine." The detective didn't smile. "Yes, and then you vanished. That caught our attention." Jasmine's heart started to race. "I didn't vanish. I just left my home." With the help of 2 helicopters, the detective asked, stepping slightly forward. Before Jasmine could answer, another voice cut in. "She's done talking for now." Lucas. He appeared from around the corner like a shadow, his tone firm. Elise didn't flinch. "I'm sure she is," Elise replied. "But someone tried to kill you, Mr. Rayford. And whoever that is, they didn't expect her to survive either. We're not just investigating a crash anymore. We're investigating a conspiracy." Lucas didn't move, but Jasmine saw his jaw tighten. "We'll cooperate," he said. "In time." The detective handed Jasmine a card. "If you remember anything unusual, call me. And don't trust everyone who shows up claiming they're here to help." She left just as quickly as she came. Jasmine stood frozen in the doorway, the detective's warning circling her thoughts. She glanced at Lucas. Was she right? Are you hiding something? Lucas didn't answer at first. He looked tired, not physically, but in his eyes. Like he'd been fighting a battle long before the car crash. There are people who'd rather I disappear, he said quietly. And when you saved me, you interrupted something they spent years planning. Now they're trying to cover their tracks, and that means tying off loose ends. Jasmine's stomach turned. And you think I'm one of those loose ends? I know you are, he said. Which is why you can't go back to your old life. She looked down. Her job was gone. Her apartment was likely being watched. Her normal was shattered, and she hadn't even chosen it. Lucas added, you should know something else. Your phone, the one you had when you found me, it pinged a tower that night. Someone's been tracking it. Not me. Not the police. Someone else. Jasmine felt a chill run down her arms. Who? We don't know yet. But we're working on it. Meanwhile, Nia had started to notice the tension. She wasn't asking questions, but she clung tighter, watched her mother more carefully. Jasmine tried to keep her calm, tried to smile when she passed through the room, but her daughter knew. Kids always knew. Later that day, Jasmine found herself in a small side room of the compound, watching security footage with one of Lucas's tech staff. A young guy named Tyler. Nervous, fast-talking, always tapping something. He pulled up the crash video, from a streetlight camera a half-mile away. The footage was grainy, but clear enough. Lucas's car was moving down the road. And then suddenly, it jerked left, hard, no brakes, no warning. It smashed into the tree. But what caught Jasmine's eye was the second vehicle. A dark SUV. It had been following Lucas. Then it slowed. Parked. Waited. And as soon as Jasmine's old sedan appeared in frame, the SUV sped off. That car, Jasmine said. Do we know who that is? Tyler shook his head. No plates. No lights. They knew where the cameras were. She leaned closer. So they saw me. They knew I stopped. Tyler nodded. And they didn't want to be seen near you. That night, Jasmine sat by the window, looking out into the trees, wondering if someone was still out there. Watching. Waiting. If they had been close enough to see her face, to know her car, then maybe they had already gotten to her job. Maybe her manager wasn't lying. Maybe he had been told to fire her. Lucas entered the room quietly, holding 2 mugs of tea. He offered her one. She didn't take it. Who are these people? She asked. Who has that kind of power? Lucas sat across from her. People you've never heard of. Private money. Black market security firms. Offshore accounts. They don't wear uniforms. They don't leave trails. And they don't forgive mistakes. And what did you do to get on their list? Lucas looked out the window. I started asking questions. Then I found answers. He reached into his coat and pulled out a flash drive. Small. Silver. Ordinary looking. This is why they want me dead. Jasmine stared at it. What is it? Proof, he said. Of everything they've done. Corruption. Bribery. Data theft. And worse. If this gets out, a lot of powerful people fall. She felt the weight of it immediately. Why give it to me? Because if something happens to me, you're the last person they expect to have it. Jasmine didn't take it. Keep it, Lucas said. Or hide it. Or destroy it. That's your choice. But if they come for me again, and I don't make it, someone has to finish what I started. Jasmine looked at the drive. At Lucas. At the dark trees swaying in the night wind. Somewhere out there, someone was watching. And they hadn't finished what they started. Not yet. The sky turned gray the next morning, heavy with storm clouds that seemed to press down on the hidden compound. The air felt different, tight, like something was about to snap. Jasmine woke to silence, not the usual quiet but an unnatural stillness that wrapped around the house like a warning. Nia was still asleep in the other room, wrapped in blankets and unaware of the tension building just outside. Jasmine walked to the window, cradling a cup of untouched tea. Her eyes scanned the tree line. For the past few days, the guards had been visible, moving along the edges of the property, always alert. But now, she couldn't see any of them. No motion. No voices. Just trees swaying in the wind. She turned as footsteps approached. It was Tyler again, eyes wide, face pale. "You need to come with me," he said, voice low and shaky. Jasmine set her cup down. "What is it?" "There's been a breach." Her stomach sank. "What kind of breach?" Tyler didn't answer. He just led her down the hallway toward a back room filled with monitors. The screens showed different camera angles from around the property. One had gone static. Another was flickering. A third showed the main gate, wide open. "They're in," he whispered. Jasmine's breath caught. "Who?" Tyler stared at the monitor. "We don't know. But they cut the power lines. Cameras are going down one by one. And Lucas, he's gone." "Gone?" Jasmine asked. "What do you mean gone?" "He left hours ago to meet with someone. Said he had to deliver the flash drive to someone he trusted in the city. He hasn't checked in since." Jasmine felt the weight of the flash drive in her pocket. She had taken it, tucked it into the lining of her jacket just before bed, still unsure why. Now it pulsed against her like a beacon. "Where's Nia?" she asked quickly. "In your room," Tyler replied. "But you need to move her. Now." Jasmine rushed down the hall and found her daughter sitting up, rubbing her eyes. "Mama, what's wrong?" She forced a smile. "We're going to play a hiding game, okay? Just like hide and seek." Nia nodded, too sleepy to question it. Jasmine scooped her up and followed Tyler down a set of stairs she didn't know existed. A narrow tunnel stretched ahead, dimly lit by emergency lights. "We set this up just in case," Tyler said. "It leads to a hidden garage on the far end of the property. One of the cars is fueled and ready. No tracking. No plates." "What about you?" Jasmine asked. Tyler paused. "I'm staying behind. Someone has to shut this place down." Before she could protest, he handed her a folded map. "This will get you to the safe drop point. There's a woman there, Simone Davis. Lucas trusted her. She knows what to do." Jasmine nodded, heart pounding. She took one last look back before disappearing into the tunnel with Nia. Outside, the wind picked up. Rain began to fall. The forest groaned under the weight of the coming storm. It took nearly 10 minutes to reach the other side. Jasmine found the garage exactly as Tyler described. A black SUV waited, keys in the ignition, a bag packed with water, snacks, cash, and a phone. No contact saved. No history. She strapped Nia in the back seat, hands trembling. Her daughter, brave as always, didn't say a word. Just held onto her small stuffed bear and stared ahead. Jasmine slid into the driver's seat and took a deep breath. Then she turned the key. The engine roared to life, and at the same moment, headlights appeared behind her. Another car. She slammed into reverse, spinning out of the garage and onto the dirt road. The vehicle behind her followed, blacked-out windows, no plates. It wasn't one of Lucas's. They had found her. Branches whipped at the windshield as she tore down the forest path, tires skidding over mud and gravel. The road was barely wide enough for one vehicle, and every curve felt like it would send them flying off a cliff. Nia was crying now, but Jasmine couldn't turn around. Her focus was locked on the road, and the SUV behind her. Shots rang out. Glass shattered as the back window exploded. Jasmine screamed and swerved. The car fishtailed, but she kept control. She couldn't outrun them. Not on this road. Then she saw it, an old wooden bridge up ahead, half rotted and sagging from age. A warning sign leaned sideways, almost unreadable. She floored it. The tires hit the boards, and the whole bridge groaned under their weight. For a second, she wasn't sure they'd make it across. But they did, just as the wood gave way behind them. She looked in the mirror. The SUV chasing them slammed on the brakes and skidded. Too late. The front wheels went over. Then the whole vehicle dropped into the creek below. Jasmine didn't slow down. She drove for hours, heart pounding in her ears, fingers cramping on the wheel. Finally, she saw a gas station at the edge of a small town. She pulled in behind it and shut off the engine, her hands shaking. Nia was asleep again, clutching her bear. Jasmine leaned back and tried to breathe. Her phone buzzed. It was the burner from the supply bag. No caller ID. Just a voice. Jasmine? She froze. Who is this? It's Simone. Lucas made it to me. He's hurt, but alive. And he told me you have the drive. Jasmine's eyes filled with tears. Yes. I have it. You need to get here. Tonight. Before they find you again. I'll send the location. But be careful, they're intercepting signals. Use the map, not the phone. The call ended. Jasmine wiped her face and looked out into the dark. Every shadow felt like a threat. Every sound could be someone coming. She looked at Nia. At the road. At the map in her lap. It wasn't over. The truth on that flash drive could destroy everything, or save them both. But first, she had to survive long enough to get it into the right hands. And as thunder rumbled in the distance, Jasmine Cole gripped the wheel again. The final chapter of her fight was coming. And this time, she wasn't running. The rain hit harder as Jasmine pulled back onto the road, the windshield wipers barely keeping up. Her knuckles whitened on the steering wheel, heart hammering as the reality of the phone call sank in. Lucas was alive, but hurt. And now, there was someone else to trust, Simone. A name she had never heard until today, yet everything now depended on reaching her. Nia stirred in the back seat. Jasmine glanced at her through the rearview mirror. The little girl's eyes fluttered open, then closed again. She was exhausted. Jasmine had to keep going. They weren't safe, not yet. The directions Simone sent were encrypted in a coded message that Jasmine couldn't decipher. But the paper map in her lap was marked with a red X, far off the main roads, deep in the countryside. It would take hours to get there, even longer through back roads. She knew better than to follow GPS, too risky. Too traceable. She passed through a small town, the kind with only one diner and a gas station that closed at sundown. Everything looked quiet, but that was the danger. Quiet didn't mean safe anymore. Quiet could mean someone was already waiting. It wasn't until she reached the long stretch of highway leading toward the mountains that she saw the lights. At first, just a glimmer in the rearview mirror. Then more. Headlights. 2 vehicles. Black. Low. Silent. They weren't marked, but she knew the look. Not cops. Not locals. Not Lucas's people either. She didn't wait to find out. Jasmine gripped the wheel tighter and pressed the gas pedal down. The engine roared. Behind her, the 2 cars closed in. She weaved around bends, headlights flashing across the trees, adrenaline surging through her veins. One of the cars pulled alongside her, trying to force her off the road. Jasmine jerked the wheel, clipping a mailbox as she swerved into the oncoming lane. Nia screamed from the back seat. Then, a shot rang out. The side mirror shattered. Jasmine screamed but didn't slow down. She veered sharply onto an old gravel road, barely wide enough for one car, bordered by thick brush on both sides. The other vehicles hesitated at the turn, giving her just enough time to put distance between them. As she sped through the woods, her phone vibrated again. Another call. Unknown number. She almost ignored it, but something told her to answer. Hello? The voice on the other end was distorted. Mechanical. Filtered. You were never meant to survive. Jasmine's blood turned cold. You should have stayed at that crash site, the voice continued. You had one job, walk away. She slammed on the brakes, the car skidding to a stop in the middle of the road. The call disconnected. She turned and checked on Nia, who was curled in her seat, terrified. Jasmine reached back and held her hand for a moment, trying to steady both their breathing. That voice, it didn't sound like anyone she knew. But the message was clear. Someone high up had made a decision, and Jasmine had disrupted it. Saving Lucas was never just about kindness. It had made her a target. But what she didn't understand, what still didn't make sense, was why she had been fired before anyone knew she'd helped Lucas. That still haunted her. Unless someone had known. Jasmine reached into the glove compartment and pulled out the phone from the supply bag. It had a hidden folder in the gallery, one she hadn't noticed before. She tapped into it. Photos. Screenshots. Names. Emails. Surveillance images of her. Not just from the day of the accident, but weeks before. She froze. One image showed her at the diner, wiping down a table. Another showed her walking Nia home from school. Someone had been watching her long before Lucas ever crashed. Why? Her eyes scanned the folder until one picture made her chest tighten. A photo of her mother, years ago, standing next to a man in a military uniform. His badge read, Colonel T. Rayford. Jasmine blinked, unable to breathe. Lucas Rayford. Her voice cracked as she whispered, "No, that's not possible." The next photo confirmed it. A newspaper clipping from decades ago. Colonel Thomas Rayford survives classified crash. Daughter disappears. Jasmine remembered her mother telling her about a man she once loved, long gone, swallowed by the system. She never gave his name. Said it was safer that way. Lucas Rayford wasn't just some random millionaire. He was her uncle. She gripped the steering wheel, shaking. The reason she was targeted wasn't just because she saved a powerful man. It was because she was connected to him. This wasn't random. It was personal. The crash. The helicopters. The job loss. The photo surveillance. It had all been in motion long before she ever stepped onto that road. Now the question wasn't just how to escape. It was, what exactly had she inherited? She started the car again, headlights slicing through the dark. The trees loomed taller as the road narrowed. A heavy fog rolled in, masking everything more than a few feet ahead. Every turn made her heart jump. Every shadow felt like it would leap into the path. Then, another roadblock. Literally. A chain strung across the road, reflective tape barely visible in the fog. Jasmine hit the brakes. In the distance, a figure stepped out from behind the trees. Not armed. Not aggressive. A woman. She walked slowly toward the car, her hands raised slightly in peace. Jasmine kept her foot near the gas pedal, ready to take off if she had to. Then the woman spoke. "Jasmine Cole?" Jasmine nodded slowly through the windshield. "My name is Simone Davis," the woman said. "And we don't have much time." Jasmine unlocked the doors. Simone slid into the passenger seat and handed over a heavy envelope. "They know who you are now. All of it. The bloodline. The files. Everything. And they're not after Lucas anymore." Jasmine stared at her. "They're after me." Simone nodded. "Because they think you know more than you do. But the truth you do hold, the drive, your past, your connection to Rayford, it's enough to break everything they've built. And they'll burn the world down before they let that happen." Jasmine tightened her grip on the wheel again. "Then we take the fight to them." Simone looked at her with something like respect and fear. "Then you'd better be ready. Because the moment you step through the next door, there's no going back." Jasmine hit the gas. The fog swallowed the road behind them. And ahead lay a secret that someone had killed to keep buried. But Jasmine was done hiding. Jasmine drove with purpose now, headlights cutting through the fog as Simone gave directions in a calm but urgent tone. The air inside the car was thick with questions, none of which Jasmine could afford to ask just yet. They were heading to an abandoned communications outpost, once used by the military but long since decommissioned. It was high enough in the mountains to stay off radar, and hidden enough to give them a fighting chance to upload what was on the flash drive. The tension between them was heavy. Nia slept, her tiny head resting against the window. She had no idea that her life, and her mother's, was wrapped in a secret decades old. Jasmine glanced at Simone, who sat quietly, clutching the envelope she'd brought. There were photos inside. Records. Documents tying Jasmine's mother and Lucas Rayford to a classified project codenamed Black Line. It involved genetic tracking, unauthorized surveillance, and off-the-books missions run by a private sector deep within the government. Jasmine's mother had disappeared because she ran. Jasmine had grown up thinking she was just a waitress's daughter. But she was the loose end they'd tried to forget. Now she was the spark about to light the whole system on fire. They reached the outpost just before dawn. A rusted gate sat slightly ajar, the ground cracked with years of neglect. Jasmine helped Nia out of the car, carrying her while Simone led the way through the crumbling doorway. Inside, old equipment sat under tarps. Dust coated every surface. But in the far corner, hidden behind a false wall, was a functioning terminal, one of the last remaining uplinks to a satellite system no longer monitored. Simone booted it up, fingers flying across the keys. "This is it," she whispered. "Once we upload the contents of that flash drive, it's out of their hands. Whistleblower sites, watchdogs, encrypted forums, it'll be everywhere in seconds." Jasmine pulled the drive from her jacket and held it tightly for a second. "Do you think it'll really change anything?" she asked. Simone looked up. "Maybe not everything. But it'll expose them. And that's where change begins." Jasmine slid the drive into the port. The screen flickered. Files loaded. Names. Project codes. Videos. Simone's eyes scanned the data as it poured in. "This isn't just about Blackline," she said, stunned. This connects to foreign accounts, contracts for targeted removals, even political manipulation. This isn't just national security, they've been using this program to protect corporate power. Billionaires. Elections. Suddenly, the screen froze. Simone cursed under her breath and restarted the program. "Something's interfering with the signal." Then the power cut out. A deep rumble echoed from outside. Jasmine rushed to the window and saw them. 3 black SUVs crawling up the mountain path, headlights like eyes in the mist. Men in tactical gear spilled out, surrounding the building. She could see their radios, their silent gestures. They weren't coming to talk. Simone grabbed the envelope and shoved it into Jasmine's hands. "There's another way out. Back tunnel, built during the Cold War. Leads to the next ridge. You and your daughter take it. What about you?" "I'll stay. I can hold them off long enough to finish the upload. The system's rebooting, if I can buy even 5 more minutes, it'll be enough." Jasmine hesitated, torn, but then a second explosion shook the building. Plaster rained from the ceiling. She scooped Nia into her arms, kissed Simone on the cheek, and ran. The tunnel was narrow and pitch black. Jasmine fumbled through with only her phone light, the heat from the explosion behind them following like a ghost. Nia clung to her, quiet but wide-eyed. They reached the exit just as dawn broke over the ridge. Smoke rose from the outpost behind them. Jasmine collapsed beside a tree, clutching Nia and the envelope to her chest. Her phone buzzed. One final message. Upload complete. Tears filled her eyes. Simone had done it. The truth was out. A new flood of emotions rushed through her, relief, grief, anger, hope. But just as she allowed herself to breathe, a low humming sound filled the air. Another helicopter. But not military. This one was white and silver, with the logo of a global news agency printed along the side. As it landed nearby, a woman stepped out, microphone in hand. Behind her, a camera crew. "Jasmine Cole?" she asked, stepping closer. We've been trying to find you. The world wants to hear your story." Jasmine held Nia tighter. "How did you find me?" The reporter smiled. "Let's just say, you're trending in about 20 countries." Jasmine turned slowly, the weight of everything sinking in. Her life, once ordinary, now part of something far bigger. She thought the storm was over. But the final twist hadn't come yet. As the reporter continued talking, Jasmine's phone buzzed again. A new message. No name. No number. Just 3 words. "This isn't over." She stared at the screen. Somewhere in the wreckage, someone had survived. And they weren't finished. Jasmine stood still, the wind tugging at her coat as the helicopter's blades slowed. The message on her phone burned in her mind, "This isn't over." It was a warning, a final whisper from the shadows. But for the first time, she wasn't afraid. Not because the danger was gone, but because she finally understood the game. And more importantly, she knew how to fight back. The reporter was asking questions, rapid fire and breathless, but Jasmine could barely hear her. Her mind was on Simone. On the explosion. On whether she had made it out. There'd been no confirmation. Only that final message confirming the upload. Maybe that was all Simone ever wanted, to get the truth out. To make sure someone carried the story forward. And now Jasmine was the one holding the torch. She let the reporter guide her toward the camera crew. Nia clung to her side, still too young to grasp what had just happened. Jasmine knelt beside her and whispered gently, "We're going to be okay now, baby. No more running." The crew captured the moment, the tired mother, the child, the broken mountain behind them. A symbol of resistance and truth. And before she spoke a word into the camera, Jasmine pulled the envelope from her coat and held it up. "This is why I was hunted," she said, her voice calm but firm. "Because I saved a life that connected back to my own. Because I carried truth I didn't even know I had. I was fired from my job, chased through the woods, shot at, threatened. But I didn't give up. And I won't stop now." The clip went viral in minutes. Across social media, people used her name as a rallying cry. #Justice for Jasmine trended for days. The Whistleblower files, now circulating on encrypted forums and public networks, revealed the full extent of the Black Line operation: illegal surveillance, political blackmail, suppression of civilian voices, and experimental programs long hidden from public view. Some of the most powerful names in tech, politics, and defense were implicated. Investigations launched within 24 hours. Protests followed. Public pressure mounted. Some resignations happened quietly, others under massive scrutiny. The program had been exposed, and the fallout was global. Jasmine didn't return to her old life. There was no diner waiting for her. No going back to small paychecks and long hours under fluorescent lights. But there was a new life, one where she had a voice. She used it. Weeks after the news broke, she stood on the stage of a town hall meeting in Atlanta, holding Nia's hand and speaking to a crowd of people who had lived their whole lives in fear of being watched, dismissed, or erased. "I didn't ask to be part of this," she said. "I didn't know my past held so much weight. But I do know this: none of us are powerless. And we don't have to wait for someone to save us. Sometimes, we're the ones who make the first move." The applause echoed. People saw her not just as a survivor, but as a leader. She didn't plan it that way. She just kept telling the truth. Lucas Rayford eventually resurfaced. He appeared on camera, recovering from his injuries, his face thinner, his tone humbled. He confirmed everything: his connection to the program, his efforts to distance himself, and the fact that his crash wasn't an accident. Someone inside the operation had tried to silence him. And Jasmine, by saving him, had disrupted their plan. But he also revealed something else. Jasmine's mother had been the one to first smuggle documents out of the facility years ago. Lucas never knew if she made it far. When Jasmine found that photo in the hidden folder, it connected everything.